Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classics that's non-classic. This is number 1088 and Doubleshot number 982. I have one DC trade, one Marvel trade. First up, we have the first of this series. Well, first this new volume. First series of this kind since 2011. We have Batman the Outsiders, Volume 1, Lesser Gods. This collects the first 7 issues of Batman the Outsiders, Volume 3, and a story from Cursed Comic Cavalcade. Written by Brian Hill, artwork by Dexter Soy. Oh, and this cover art? This is Tyler Kirkham's artwork. Yeah. Now, as for this particular lineup, being Batman, everybody knows who Batman is. And now, of the members who are basically associated with the Outsiders, besides Batman, there's only 2 people on this cover who've had a past with the Outsiders. And that's Katana and Black Lightning. Well, actually, also, Cassandra Cain has 2. The only new character part of this group who was never part of the Outsiders before is the Signal. Yes, my personal guess is the reason why that he was put with the Outsiders, because I don't think any writers of DC have no idea what to do with this character. Because he's a character created by Scott Snyder that apparently nobody wants anything to do with. Doesn't put him on a team or anything prior to this. Nope. He was simply put a supporting character doing stuff here and there, and he got his own miniseries, Batman the Signal, done by Scott Snyder. But aside from that, he didn't do very much. I mean, his debut during Zero, unlike let's say Harper Row, which she got a lot of positive reception, and she eventually came around Hero, though she retired. Thanks to Batman Eternal. Duke Thomas, on the other hand, as far as I've heard, he's been receiving negative reception since his debut. Not because of skin color, because of the whole character is so much forced. Yeah, the force push that this guy got since his debut appearance. Probably from Scott Snyder himself. Now, this group is quite interesting, because Batman, despite the fact that this is kind of his team, Black Lightning is the boss. So we got a 4-man team. Okay, now other people associated with the Suicide Squad, the Outsiders, where the heck are they? Well, Metamorphosis isn't terrific, so he's busy. Okay, what about Geoforce? Geoforce appeared in the Curse of Cobra miniseries, storyline for Katana in the page of Suicide Most Wanted, but he was the Prince. They've mentioned McCarvey in here, but no Geoforce. Okay, what about Halo? She was a supporting character in the 2 Katana books. And that's all you see of the character. It's like any character you could think of associated with the Outsiders, with the exception of Batman, with the exception of if you see in the cover here, with the exception of comics, like almost everybody else is simply busy in their book, or DC just simply not using them. Now, the whole purpose of this team is to basically continue some similar ideas to what James hinted. This is just my theory anyways, that the whole idea of Batman having his own team outside of the Justice League, where he runs it, basically, though Black Lightning is the field leader for the team, and this kind of stems from what happened with James Tynion. Okay, my guess is some DC writers, writers and basically readers are so used to basically Batman Beyond, have Batman have his own team, so not associated with the Justice League. So this was a smart move, and you gotta thank Scott Snyder to bring back the Outsiders, because prior to that, no one even in the continuity even associated with the Outsiders with each other. Yep. Now, the whole thing with this particular title is that it stemmed from the storyline on the outside, which I actually referenced a couple times in here. Now, the thing with this particular title is that, you see, originally it was supposed to come out in December of 2018, but for some reason was delayed by 5 months. Why the delay? As far as I know, there has been no explanation of why the book was delayed, because it was announced to come out in December, but the issues that were supposed to come out were canceled and moved to frickin' May. Why? No idea why. Yep. Now, the storyline here is this. Basically, you have the Outsiders dealing with, a kidnapped girl named Sophia, who becomes a character named Babylon, where she's taken and they have to go rescue her. Yeah, a 4-man team, even though the Outsiders know for having a lot more than 4 people involved. They're known for having a good almost 10 people. Why this number? Maybe Brian Hill didn't want to put any more characters in the book. I have no idea. Even though, yes, it's kind of like 5, but Batman doesn't do very much of this entire series. In these issues, he doesn't do very much. He's mostly like a mentor, and basically all the stuff basically with this team is handled by Black Lightning, which is fine because the guy's got experience. And Batman really wanted to lead the team, despite the fact he takes orders from him, but the team takes orders from Black Lightning. Yep, so they go deal with Ra's al Ghul. Oh yeah, in case you're wondering, does this book, because it came out last year, does this have any tie into Year of the Villain? Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I think it was in issue 3 or 4, where issue ended with Lex Luthor showing up in his Apex Lex form and making an offer to Ra's al Ghul. What the offer was, I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those little 2-page things, basically the whole offer stuff. Yep, and throughout this whole storyline, it's simply put the Outsiders versus Ra's al Ghul and like 2 other people. Yeah, there's a guy who allegedly works with him for these few issues, but then he turns on them, revealing that, yeah, he was with Ra's the whole time. I mean, in the case, this is actually quite different than, let's say, with Sterling in the pages of Birds of Prey. At least this was hinted at. Not in the case with Sterling, where it was completely out of the blue. Yeah, this is much more handled. And plus, also, Brian Hill created the character, so it makes perfect sense for him to do this. And to have the Outsiders take on Ra's first, that's interesting. Because, in case you're wondering, have they ever taken Ra's before? Yes. During Chuck Dixon's run on the Outsiders. When was known as Batman the Outsiders before he left. And I even told him this, that apparently the 5 issues that came out after he left, when it was still known as Batman the Outsiders, even he was surprised to hear, though, that those issues were never put in the trade. Yeah, he was surprised to hear that. Because he thought, though, maybe they collect the thing in trade after he left. Nope, they just collect his issues. Which made probably the writer of that, I think it was J.T. Kroll, probably made him very unhappy that his issues were not in trade. But yeah, Brian Hale's got his issues in trade. Yep. And the whole story, it's implied this whole thing that Cassandra Cain and Duke Thomas have a thing for each other. Yes, Duke Thomas. Man, you are a player. Like, you had a girlfriend in your own miniseries, you had a thing for Gotham Girl, and now it's Cassandra Cain. Who's next? I wonder. And there's hints of a possible thing between Katana and Black Lightning. Which, I'm thinking now in the case of Duke and Cassandra Cain, that makes a little more sense because these two work with each other. But Black Lightning and Katana? Yeah, these two worked here before, but not in this continuity. Yeah, in this continuity, prior to this book starting up, like, they interacted with each other in one storyline prior to this, and that was it. Yeah, one thing at least got to appreciate, though, about Katana in this storyline is that, well, she's still wearing her New 52 attire, which is fine, but I think one thing that some people may appreciate, though, she doesn't have the gray makeup on her face, which was something she had when she first showed up in this current continuity in the pages of Birds of Prey, which makes this book the 4th book she's been part of in the past 9 years. Because first was Birds of Prey, and then Justice League of America, and then Suicide Squad, now this series. 4 group books. Wow. And Batman's usually written to be his normal self, but this is typical Batman. The book itself is utterly fantastic. The Curse Comic Cavalcade is just, well, Katana and Black Lightning work together in some magical mission. That's simply put it when it comes to that. But this, of course, is fantastic. Love it. I love the fact that DC brought back this series because this is one series I've wanted to see come brought back for a long time. And thank you, DC, for bringing this series back. Because I was actually reading this title originally. I get this book roughly 9.5. I actually started reading this title toward the end of the previous run. That ended in 2011. I was reading toward the end of it. And I'm thinking that maybe they're going to relaunch the book with New 52. Nope, they never did. They just put the book to a side. Did nothing with it for 7 years. Until Scott Snyder decided to bring back the group. Thank you, Scott Snyder, for doing that. So you got to thank Scott Snyder for not only, creating Duke Thomas, for bringing back the Outsiders as well, thanks to the prelude stuff for Dark Knight Metal. Next up is kind of the end of a series, in a way. We have The Savage Sword of Conan. This, of course, the second volume for the series, Conan the Gambler. This collected issue 6 to 11. Like, this is final trade now. Here's kind of the strange thing about this trade. For some reason, they don't put the final issue of the series in here, which is kind of weird. That's my only problem with this trade, is that you don't have the final issue, issue 12. It's not in this trade at all. I mean, if you're expecting our trade to come out for this particular series, don't bother to basically expect it because, the series is over after 12 issues. I was surprised when the series ended after just 12 issues. Which I'm like, okay, you bring the series back after like over 20 years being gone, and yet you decided to cancel it? Why? It makes no freaking sense. Now, unlike the first 5 issues of this series, of this run anyways, where it was all by Gary Duggan, this is done by 3 different writers over the course of these 5 issues. Well, more like 6. The opening issue in here is done by Meredith Finch. Awesome. And her husband, David Finch, does the cover art. Really good. Luke Ross does the interior artwork. 7 through 9 is Conan the Gambler, the storyline here. Written by Jim Zebb and artwork by Patrick Zurcher. And here's the cool fact when it comes to this particular trade. 10 and 11 written by the guy who actually created the comic version of Conan the Barbarian. Roy Thomas, the guy who had the longest run of the title. 115 issues. Yes, 115 issues. It's great that he came back this title toward the end of the book. And he has Alan Davis in the book, which is utterly fantastic. Now, that particular storyline is great. I'm going to talk about that storyline first because it's Roy Thomas. It's basically standard. It's basically what we expect from Roy Thomas when he writes Conan. Basically with supernatural stuff, magic, and deal with this cave of a dark crystal. Yeah, this is typical Roy Thomas. And this is the type of storytelling I think a lot of people loved about the guy's writing style when he was writing Conan back in the 70s and 80s. And I'm glad the fact he still brought back this style with this. Though, yes, he did write Conan when he was basically... when it was being published by Dark Horse. Yeah, he did write a run for that book, and it was great that he wrote a run for Conan. It was published by Dark Horse, but it's great for me personally, the fact that he wrote something recently as a few months ago, which is fantastic. Conan the Gambler basically is Conan basically being a casino and gambling a bunch of stuff. Now, I should point out, though, one of the pictures in here, something about Conan's Witch, I look at this picture. This is, of course, done by Patrick Zurcher. Is it just me, or does this character look a lot? This picture here looks a lot like the Scarlet Witch, a woman he would actually encounter in the Savage Avengers series. Yep, and yeah, that's the simple whole point of this issue. Issue 6 is simply put just a standalone issue with the awesome David Finch on the cover art here. Yeah, this is just him basically just acting like his normal self, just hang out by people, go some fights, killing a bunch of people, stealing some jewelry for some woman that he basically decided to fancy, and that's it. It's just a standard Conan story that you expect from a lot of other Conan writers. Basically, if you read this issue, it's kind of similar to what they do with him in the pages of the Dark Horse run. It's very similar to that, but not exact. It has some elements there for that. I would say probably the weakest story of this whole thing is probably Conan the Gambler, though it was a nice nod for Scarlet Witch to be thrown in there, probably because, well, published by Marvel, so why not reference the Scarlet Witch? Yep. But, in my personal opinion, probably the best issues of this whole thing, nothing against Meredith Finch, great writer, but, in my opinion, the best issues of this trade is the Roy Thomas issues. Because anybody who has read Conan comics probably would love to read, or at least have read, the Roy Thomas issues. Now, he has written some issues for Savage Conan. As a matter of fact, he actually was the first writer for the original Titan One Star back in the 70s. He wrote the first issue. I think he wrote some issues here and there. But yeah, he wrote the very first issue for the series when it came back in the late 70s. So, Roy Thomas coming back to a series that he started himself. By the way, I read a line that apparently I read some, like, after reading the first issue, apparently there's a little bit of backstory for the first issue, where apparently the whole idea of the original the Savage Conan series was all Roy Thomas's idea, but he wasn't actually going to write it, but he wrote the first issue anyways. Also, in case you're wondering, was the first series in color? Nope, it was in black and white. Yeah, 255 issues of this. Black and white issues, which also had a backup feature feature Solomon frickin' Kane, which, by the way, he did just recently return to Marvel Comics for the first time in years. I'll get to that when I talk about Conan Serpent War, which is, like, utterly fantastic. I love all Conan books. Yeah, this book is really good. Like I said, the only disappointment, the only thing I don't like about this trade is the last issue for this run is not in here. Unknown why it's not in here, but it isn't. Also, oh yeah, we give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. At least I give it an extra point. Normally I give it 9.5, but because last year's not in there, that's the reason I took it off. Now, I forgot to mention this when it came to, even when I reviewed the first trade for this one, and of course the first trade for Conan Barbarian, that both these two series, including several Conan books, have got a backup feature. Yep. They have a text feature in the book, which is new for Conan, because it's a novelia, which I don't know if it's been collected in trade. I have no idea if it has or not. But it's interesting, though, they decided to put this in the back of the book, back the issues, like right at the finish the main story. So you can say you can kind of read the issues, but it's not all that necessary to read a novelia. If you want to read it, fine. I don't think people who read the issues care if you want to read it or not. I mean, it's just a bonus story. That's simply all it is. But it's interesting. I haven't seen a trade for it yet. Yeah. But yeah, not much else to say about these particular trades because they're both really good. Yep. Though Roy Thomas is my favorite one of the favorite story in here because it's really good. Yeah, the final issue is called The Search, Conan the Searcher, and it's written by Frank Terry, who I don't know why his issue was not in trade because the only book I can think of he wrote for Marvel, aside from that one issue of Seven Shogun, is he wrote the Black Knight series, which is really good, by the way, but Marvel canceled due to low sales. I'm like, why people wouldn't buy Black Knight? He's a great character. And I would think because he's going to feature in Eternals, maybe they're going to bring back his title, or at least do something with the character. As far as I know, they've done nothing with the Black Knight. And also, nothing with the Eternals, despite the fact they kind of all commit mass suicide in the first issue of Jason Aaron's Avengers. Yeah, hopefully something soon with that. Okay, so that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned for my reviews for these following things. Boruto, The Gray Man, well, there's chapter of it. Demon Slayer, and probably Inuyasha and One Punch Man, okay? Produce next few. Bye.